troublesome variation indeed. And I think that's the direction most strong players would have gone in, just because that b6 move is so weakening on the queen side. And instead of doing that after b6, he played this move, bishop to d3. Not quite accurate. And I think knight to b4 was exactly the timed response. Bishop dropping back to e2, and now it's up to black. Black is on move, and I think he really has to take on c4 now. I think that's the number one choice here. Take on c4, just to give the knight the opportunity to be able to go back to d5 if it's ever chased. He can now go here, and so after this take and castles, this would be a good position for him. Instead, he's played a different move. He's played the move bishop to b7, which may work out in the long run, but if the move a3 shows up, he will have to lose a big tempo, bringing the knight back to c6. So I think that was slightly inaccurate, although sensible to bring the bishop out into the game. But you've got to think about the future of all your pieces, not just one piece at a time. And there is the move a3, now exploiting the position of that knight. The knight will have to drop back, so Justin put his finger on it for this one moment to chase the knight out of the b4 square.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe instead of a3, white could even play knight b5. It's almost like a beginner's move, creating a threat on c7 right away. But the point is that usually we defend this pawn with move rook c8, which in this particular case doesn't work because of knight takes a7. So it looks like the only move for black would be to go back to a6, which is a little bit awkward, but still acceptable. Okay, so a3 and knight c6 were played.
And so you might wonder, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that, remember, just a few seconds ago, we had this position, this one. Now, the bishop could have gone to e2 in one move. It could have, instead of going to the d3 square, he could have played bishop to e2. Instead, he put his bishop on d3, knight b4. Now the bishop goes back to e2, and after let me get the right move, he played bishop to b7 here. Now a3, knight back on c6. So if you compare the positions, white has gotten in bishop e2 and a3, while black has still had the knight on c6. So nothing really changed. It's really white's move again, and black has lost a couple of tempi getting this position. So that knight going in and out, that is not what you want in the opening. You want to have smooth development for your pieces. So right now, I would say slight advantage to white. White could probably get a big advantage in some variation, but it's still a long ways to go. This is a very sophisticated position, and Justin is certainly going to look to see if he can exploit it. I like the time situation as well. They're playing fast enough. You hate to get into a big disadvantage on the clock, and right now, the move castles has been played. Smart move, nice and quick. Get your king out of the middle. And I think you might want to do the same if you're black, although you might consider taking on c4 at some point. But castles now is probably what the doctor ordered, and play the rest of the game.
We maybe pointed some little inaccuracies from both players, but objectively both of them play very well so far. They follow the most important opening principles. They both develop pieces. Justin castled, Donald should castle too. And after that, the opening stage will be pretty much over. Both sides developing knights and bishops and castling and ready for the middle game.
Yeah, I think Justin is being very logical about his moves, while Donald is taking a little bit of time, and his move queen d7, refusing to castle. He's trying to get himself in some trouble right now.
Right.
I mean, it's really unnecessary to be leaving the king in the middle of the board this long. So Justin, look at Justin. He just sat up in his chair like a cat who noticed a mouse showing up. This move, queen d7, really has him befuddled, and he knows there could be some tactics here. And I think that he probably sees that he could take on d5, put his bishop on b5. So what I'm looking at, and I think Justin's going to spot, is what happens if I just take right now? Maybe knight takes is something worth calculating, and then the move bishop to b5. Is this right? Because he's got to wonder if knight takes on f4 might not disrupt what he's trying to do, because what he's trying to do is put a knight right here on the e5 square, and that would be pretty powerful. But he's got to wonder if that's not just going to disrupt his position, seeing knight f4. So you know he's calculating that right now, Gregory, to see if that somehow, he smells a rat. I mean, you could tell. You could tell the way he jumped up. He said, wait a minute, this guy's not castling, man. He's asking for me to come get him right now.
Yeah, and as teachers, we always emphasize the importance of castling as soon as possible. So there was no reason for black to play this queen d7 move. So, okay, Justin decided to go slow.
Not a bad move.
Yeah, which is not bad.
Extreme pressure on that line. And now black has to castle. I mean, it's not, I'm still not comfortable, but everything is connected right now, and you better not be thinking about castling queenside, because that rook on the c file is putting massive pressure on this line. This line down here will be way too powerful for you to handle, so you definitely do not want to deal with that in this position. So I think that it's going to be on white, that is on black, to castle right now and not have to deal with this rook. So the move, I mean, if he doesn't castle now, I'm sure his coach is going to have something to say to him.
Right.
Because that's just necessary. You cannot just leave your king in the middle of the board.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but sometimes young kids almost like have some kind of prejudice against castling. You never know, but I heard all kind of things, all kind of excuses not to castle. Or some of them love to castle queenside, which again, probably 90% of cases is a wrong way to castle. So he should just castle short and be happy. But Donald is waiting.
Taking way too long now, Gregory. I mean, these are the moves that you play automatically, to be spending all this time. And now he's played the move a6. I mean, he's really tempting fate in this game, not castling. But I got to say, a6 is a cagey move. It absolutely does stop some of the pressure on that b5 square at least. Right about now, you feel like it's not easy to crack in this position right now to get at black's game. Rook c1 might have been just a little bit too slow. But this move a6, that I like. I have to say, I'm impressed by that move.
No, I think white still has a solid advantage. But in order to increase this advantage, he needs to play aggressively. When your opponent is not castling, you need to play aggressively, not giving him time. So he needs to take this pawn on d5. If, let's say, black takes with a knight, let's say knight takes, pawn takes, and after knight to e5, black is in trouble, because after knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, all of a sudden, both those pawns are under attack, and black is losing. Black is losing at least a pawn and maybe more. So, and if black takes with a pawn on d5, something similar might happen. Knight e5, knight takes e5. Now maybe white should take with a pawn. If black plays knight to e4, maybe in between move bishop g4.
Ooh, this looks ugly.
Yeah, black's position looks very bad. But the key here, and he did play c takes d5.
Yes, absolutely. When you're ahead in development, open up the position, go on the offensive, and that is exactly what Justin is doing right now. And that move absolutely says, let's go get him. I want to open up this line. Black is not developed, his king is not castled. You can't just be wasting time in the opening. And now he's definitely putting his finger on some of the issues in this position. C takes d5. Simple chess.
So if you are a parent and you are listening to us, your kids come out of the game, please tell them, castle as quickly as possible. And if the kid gives you this look like, who are you to tell me what to do? You tell them, that's what Grandmaster said.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's taken back on d5 with a knight. I was wondering here, Gregory. Oh, I see. Yeah. So knight takes knight has been played. Problem is, queen takes, drops a pawn, and maybe more. This queen takes here would drop a pawn to bishop takes on c7. So that, and then that b pawn is hanging, and that's just a free pawn for no reason. So it looks as though he's going to be in dire straits any second, and he's taken back with the pawn. But how does he handle the monster move? And it will appear on the board. I can bet you that young Justin will find this next move. If I had to predict, Gregory, I bet 100 right now. I mean, no question about it. Knight e5 is the next move. That's a money move right there. And that move is going to cause fits for the black position. Knight to e5 is so natural, so strong, that it just simply is screaming to be played.
Okay, and Donald is shaking his head. He already sees the problem, so he knows that he's in trouble. And all it took for him, one move to stay away from castle. Just one move too slow, one move too much, and that's it. And his position is about to collapse.
Absolutely. This move, knight e5, we're predicting is coming, should come. The queen's under attack. The knight's under attack. It's very hard to figure out where to put the queen. You don't want to go here because then you're in the line of the bishop, so knight takes knight, and that queen is hanging to the bishop. So that is just too much. Is he hesitating on this move? Hard to believe. He hasn't played it already. Knight to e5 is such a powerful move, and he senses it, but this move is just crushing. Other possibilities for black, queen here. This bishop g4 is catching my eye, but so is just simply knight takes knight, bishop takes, and now bishop takes, bishop g4 is again on my mind. But knight to e5 has been played as we predicted, and that's a body blow of tremendous proportions. Now knight e5 is on the board, and we have pointed out, if knight takes knight, bishop takes, and look at the attack on the g7 pawn, and the other attack on the c7 pawn, and with that rook sitting on that c line, that's just a bone cruncher. This should be crushing, completely crushing position for white after knight e5. And if your king is sitting on g8, the g pawn's protected, you've got no problems. Or at least you have less problems. Not in this line you would never have a problem, you'd be able to defend. But because he left his king in the middle of the board, the g7 pawn is not protected. Right here, this nugget right here is not protected. And guess what? Because of that, when the exchange happens on e5, he's going to go down. Tough game. Tough game for black already.
Former world champion Garry Kasparov wrote a great book which is called How Chess Imitates Life. And here we can see one of those examples. How often all of us try to postpone something we need to do now for the later. And that's what Donald did. He could castle, but he decided to do this just one move later, and that's it. So
and he has taken on e5, Gregory, and bishop takes. Look at this mess he's created for himself. What to do now? Like, in practical terms, he might have to give up the g pawn.
Right. Maybe he doesn't worry about this too much because he thinks that he might have an attack. And you know what? Maybe he does. Look
Maybe
at this.
He does.
If he plays bishop d6, bishop takes g7, rook g8, white has to find bishop e5 move.
Yes, very carefully, because bishop f6.
Bishop f6 will lose to queen h3, right?
Is it losing?
It's still G.
3 is still in the game.
I mean, draw.
That would be a minimum draw after bishop takes, pawn takes, and now rook takes on g3, pawn takes, queen takes, check, and now he can get a perpetual check. Probably has to get a perpetual check in this position. So he'd be okay in that line. Let's back up though. Bishop e5 is a bigger argument, but how is this position, Gregory? What's happening here?
So queen h3 is just not good because of bishop g3.
And he has played bishop d6. Look at this, fighting from his back with bishop to d6, giving away the g pawn to get counterplay on the g line. Certainly a nice try, maybe his best try in this position. Will it be enough, however? Looks doubtful. Bishop e5, pawn takes, D4 is a move you want to play. Unfortunately, bishop to F3 is just too strong. But it must be losing, but it's not the same kind of losing as you would expect. At least he's fighting back in this position.
Yeah, this is a very interesting psychological moment because so white can take this pawn and get away with this. But sometimes when you play against opponent who is low rated, you're trying to avoid all kind of risks. And it will be interesting to see whether Justin will do just that. His patience is so good that he probably can get an advantage without taking the pawn. Like for example, he can play bishop g4 first. And if black plays f5, he can play bishop h5 check, and
g6 is not playable, we should point out, because the rook in the corner would be hanging. So that would be a very bad mistake in this position. So that would cause the king to have to move after check, and that again exploits the fact that the king is in the middle of the board. So that is a problem right now. But Justin is looking at that g-pawn, and he well understands compensation. He knows, I get the pawn, but black might be able to castle queenside, and I could see him falling for this perpetual, because after bishop takes, rook g8, you and I understand quite well you need to play bishop here, bishop to e5. He might play bishop f6 though, feeling like he's gaining something by stopping black from castling. But that queen h3 move is something he will have to calculate, and maybe he didn't suspect he would have to calculate this line at all. So this challenge is before him. He should take the pawn, he should play bishop e5, and then he would have a tremendous position. And that is what he's pondering at the moment. Bishop to d6, a rambunctious move, a fighter's move from young Donald, as he says, go ahead, take my pawn, I got something for you. And he's looking quite calm, as a matter of fact. I remember that big time edge he had in the game. Now, I mean, he had at least 2 or 3 minutes on the clock, but this last move has thrown him for a loop. Bishop to d6, you see the difference in the demeanor. Donald knows, and he's probably been taught, hey, pawns, big deal if you're getting compensation. And you can see the confidence in him right now that he's daring, almost daring Justin to take the pawn. You could see it.
But it's interesting how, teaching so many young players, we know certain psychological type. For example, someone who plays d4 usually is more cautious, more positional player, and players of this style, they don't like to take any risks. And so you can see on Justin's face that he's not super happy. And my prediction is he's not going to take this pawn.
I get the same feeling as well, and I will tell you, the game I played against Justin yesterday, I had the white side, he played a French, and he took my b-pawn and gave me the open file for my rook, and that was exactly the file I used to checkmate him, getting my rook into the position, and both rooks used the g-file, the b-file. So he's got a memory in his mind. Last game played, I hate to say, it was against me, and he took my pawn, and I showed him the value of an open file for the attack. So he's probably feeling similar right now. Wait a minute, I saw this story just yesterday. Taking pawns is not so easy just to win the game. And he's seeing that g-pawn. It looks delicious, but his confidence is definitely flagged right now. Look at the clock. He had an edge on the clock. Now he's down to 11:53, and he's wondering what to do. He's thinking about it. So we know that he's already written the move bishop g7 off. It looks like he doesn't like that move. He sees too much counterplay, and he wants to find something else to do. But he came all the way here to take the g-pawn, and now his hopes have been dashed. And he has decided instead, as you predicted correctly, Gregory, I don't want that pawn. Let me take the bishop on d6.
Yeah, he still has a positional advantage. So it's okay. It's okay. He had a chance to get huge advantage, but this advantage he has on the board right now is still good enough for him to press for a win.
I don't know what you're talking about, Gregory. This position at this level, I feel like he has thrown away most of his edge, maybe. I mean, of course he does have an edge. Queen C2 has been played. Now he's going after the C pawn. But I don't think this is the position he was looking for.
Yeah, he probably is a little bit disappointed, I agree. But it's okay. It's okay. I think you have to be flexible and you have to sometimes admit your mistakes. And though he did make mistake in this particular case, but it felt to him like he did. So he's probably a little bit disappointed, but his position is completely fine.
Yes, that is true. White's absolutely fine and definitely better on account of having this nice bishop, which matches well with the pawn formation. It's on a light square. The pawns are all on dark, while black's bishop needs to figure out what it wants to do. It's definitely the inferior piece in this position, and especially after what looks like a forced move, C6 coming up, because you can't play the move.
If I can have your attention, please, for just a minute.
Because
I need William Bacco and Bridget Morgan's parents to come to the top of the big stairs, please. William Bacco and Bridget Morgan's parents. And I also just wanted to, I know if you haven't seen this already, I wanted to welcome back our 3 grandmasters, Maurice, Ashley, Gregory Kaidanov, and Irina Krush. They're all here. Maurice and Gregory are commentating if you haven't seen that already on the top board. And we have Irina and our local master, Russell Wilson, who are going to be sitting at these top round tables over near the stage, and they'll be playing chess down here. So feel free to come down and play a game with them. Thank you.
So now it looks like Justin's in his element. I got to tell you, he seems very comfortable. After the move C6, weakening the B6 pawn, he played queen to B3, and that move now guarding, attacking this pawn here on B6 that's just been weakened, and now he's starting to probe. He's starting to probe, nice style. If you play the move B5, you weaken all the dark squares. This square will be weak. This square will be a home for white. This square potentially weak as well, but certainly the move rook to C5 will call itself on the board. Rook to C5, posting up. That rook will never leave off of that square. But the challenge will still be to have to open up the game in some way to win this position. So from a technical viewpoint, he certainly has an advantage, and the move B5 has been played. So we have this position on the board as we speak. B5 was played, and although black is worse, this bad bishop is guarding an important pawn. And unless you can prove the advantage here, you're going to have to somehow open up the other side, Gregory, something like E4.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if I can make another quick announcement, and I should have done this at the beginning, but if you are a player, I need all the players' attention, please, and you have your score sheet on the first floor and did not turn in your score sheet. If you did not turn in your score sheet, you need to bring it back upstairs to the score tables. We need all the score sheets upstairs or we can't do the next round. So if you have a score sheet still and you're a player, please bring it upstairs. Thank you.
One of the things, Gregory, that's really tough about what I notice about these Detroit kids is they give you nothing for free. Like, you're not getting anything. You're going to have to come up with some good, solid plan that runs over them. Slowly but surely knock them off the board. Because these better ones, like Donald, they see one-move threats, they see two-move tactics. You're going to have to show some serious fine positional form in order to get them. And right now, you see Donald defending staunchly. He's got 9 minutes on the clock, so he's going to have to pick up his pace at some point. But at the moment, it is not that easy. It's not that evident after White makes a couple of obvious moves how he's going to break through this position.
As you mentioned, White at some point probably should play E4. It's very difficult to win without so-called pawn breaks. When you have 7 or 8 pawns on the board, not enough space for your pieces, And so you have to push your pawns in open files. And people like Justin, they sometimes feel reluctant to do that because he doesn't like open positions. Okay, so he does play bishop f3. So he knows that he needs to play e4, though he's not threatening to play e4 for a moment because, let's say, black does nothing. And if white plays e4, black shakes, oops, white shakes, queen shakes, and white lost at least a pawn. So, so black can just play a move like king h8 or...
That's what I was wondering, Gregory. What do you think about king h8 with the idea, let's say since he can't play e4 yet, let's say he doubled this random move.
Right.
And black played f5. What would you say about this position? How does white actually win the game?
Yeah, he will need to do a lot of regrouping in order to...
I mean, I can't find an easy plan for him. It's not... I mean, of course, he dominates the dark squares. He could look to get his queen in, maybe put his queen on a5 or something. But I still don't see how white wins this position.
Yeah, without a pawn break, it's
without
very
a pawn
difficult.
break.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if I gave this position with black to Magnus Carlsen, I get the feeling like he'd think he would survive this position, that it wouldn't be so easy for even a professional to break through in this position. All right, if you could just lock it down. I have a suspicion that, and he's played rook to e8, preventing e4, first step. So let's go back to this position. After bishop f3, rook f to e8, and that stops e4. So he knows the e4 break is really the only break for white. And you got to stare at this board and wonder, what is white supposed to actually do here? I'm getting the feeling like white's advantage is clear in terms of the optics, but in terms of practical play, this is not easy.
Right, right. And but he does have advantage on the clock. He has 3 extra minutes, so he needs to play quickly, and he does.
Smart, definitely. You got to use your time advantage to your benefit, and white does have a few free moves, so why not make him? He's doubled now on the c line. He's not threatening to take that c-pawn, though. That bishop by itself can guard that c-pawn with no worries whatsoever. But black, in the meantime, could double his rooks on the e line. I mean, under some circumstances, black might even play f5 and play f4 himself. So white will have to play g3 to actually defend the position. So that's going to be an interesting development to see that happen. I can't imagine black playing g5 and f4 as well. Actually, I can imagine g5 and f4 happening as well. So we can see some really interesting threats develop for black. He would first have to double his rooks, though. And there he goes. Rook to e6. And it's just everybody overprotecting the c-pawn. That c-pawn feels like a baby in a nursery right now. It's getting so much protection. There's no break that's going to happen on this c-pawn. In the meantime, black plans to bring his rook over to the e line, and he might start thinking about f5. He might even think about g5. And, you know, it's going to be anybody's game if that happens.
That's right. That's right. At this point, black is doing completely fine. Basically, white's chances are in a long, long game.
And white has started with the move a4. I don't think this really helps white or changes the position much. It's a pawn break, but that pawn is sturdy and can be captured with the a pawn, so that's maybe he's looking to open up the a file so that he can later penetrate himself with a rook. At the moment, not much going on there, but I think f5 is what the doctor ordered right now, as far as I'm concerned. The only issue for black is that clock. He's down 3 minutes, and most critically, he's closing in on that 5-minute mark. And if he doesn't start playing quickly, he's going to find himself in a rich position with no time on the clock.
Right. I think if white is destined to win this game, then it's going to happen because of time. So this could be the main reason why and if black is going to lose. So white doesn't have any major threats, so there is no reason why Donald shouldn't play much faster than he does right now.
Yeah, he's way too slow in his body language. He's way too slow in the way he's approaching this position. He's got to be aware of the clock, and I see a lot of writing going on right now. He's not taking cliff notes for a class. I mean, what is this? It's taking way too long, and now he's threatened. He's made a threat. Rook to h6. That's a premature-looking move as far as I'm concerned, and rook didn't really need to be there. And instantly, the move g3 was played. None of that. And now, that move seems to have prompted Donald a little bit to move a little bit faster. He's going down to the 5-minute mark, so he has 8 seconds before he can stop writing down his moves, and he's played yet another threat, rook over to attack the bishop. But all that did was improve white's game. Those last 2 moves really just helped white. Gave him a place to run, and also now his bishop is dropped back. But look at that. Donald is now aware he no longer has to write down moves. He's put his score sheet aside, and it's time to see what his blitz skills are like.
Yeah, and they had little conversation. So looks like Donald said, "I'm down below 5 minutes. I don't have to write." And Justin nodded and said, "Okay."
Probably want to say whatever. Do what you got to do. But right now, he spent 30 seconds after that 5-minute break to think about his next move. There are no threats yet, so he needs to move. He's played rook to e8. And now that gives a window, and he has taken it to capture on b5, and now quickly pawn takes back, and now the a file is in fact open. So something on the a line, probably rook to a1, is called for. I would suggest rook to a1 as the next move. That makes a lot of sense because you're not doing anything on the c line. There seems to be no tactics, no breaks anywhere. c6 is well held. So I would say rook over to a1 by Justin should be played pretty quickly, but he's doing the right thing, spending a little extra time studying the position, seeing what he wants to do. I think those last moves by black really helped white a lot. Those was 2 free moves he gave to white, and now he doesn't have any tactics himself on the other side. So rook a1, though, seems like the best move.
Right. He should check this file. Yeah, but once again, the biggest problem for black is time, and most likely it will play a factor. White has also some tricks. So rook a1 is kind of natural and good move. And for example, if black will try to challenge white,
and it was played, rook to a1 was played.
Right, then he's gonna get into this tactics with bishop takes d5, and the problem is that the back rank issue. So so black has to be very careful about this. Okay, but right now we are in this position.
And he has played that move, overlooking the tactic that you just pointed out. He did indeed play rook to a8. It is on the board, and let's see whether or not Justin spots this tactic. Rook takes rook is the winning move. Rook takes, bishop takes, and snack on the pawn. Justin sees it, he'll be up a pawn, and the position will be falling apart for black after this capture. Definitely the kind of tactic you have to find, and now it looks like black is busted. This move, again, if takes, the good old back rank issues, and all that loss of time that black did, that's costing him right now. All those wasted moves that he played, moving his rook over, chasing the bishop back, he could have made Luft. He could have done something like Luft. His 2 rook moves, and look at that, quickly jumping to take on a8 is Justin, and he's not playing bishop d5, he missed the move. He's played instead, after this trade, he played, instead of bishop d5, which won on the spot, he played queen to a2. Queen to a2 instead, and that allows, looks like queen d8 to be played, or even bishop to b7 might be played, but queen d8 does seem simple enough, Gregory. Are there any tricks here?
I don't see immediate win. Of course, white position remains very comfortable. He can get his queen to a7, for example.
And bring his rook. He'll have to bring his rook back, it looks like.
Right,
Leaving the rook there doesn't make sense anymore. Bringing the rook back and bringing it over to the A line so he could take over the A line. Positional way of going, and now only 3 minutes and 12 seconds, and queen d8 was in fact played. So we do have the position on the board, queen to d8. This is the position on the board, trying to defend tenaciously, but with only 3 minutes and 9 seconds left on the clock. 4-minute extra advantage for Justin, the higher rated player, almost 700 rating points, make that 650 rating points higher. I think my numbers are off. I think my math is off. 600 and change rating points higher than his opponent. And now he's played queen to a6, jumping into the a6 square instead of the a7 square, controlling the board.
But he also has a threat of bishop takes d5. And Donald did see that. So he played rook d6 and not allowing bishop takes d5.
Let's point out the reason for
okay,
bishop
they're talking to each other.
They have now stopped the clock. There's some controversy on the board. What just happened? I mean, he just played rook to d6. It looked like he used his left hand to play rook d6. I think he hit the clock with his same hand. I'm not sure. But they have now left the board. The time is paused, and there's some discussion going on.
So there is clearly some dispute. So
we're going to see if we can find out what's going on. This move, rook d6, was played, and just unusually right in the middle of the game, they have stopped the clock and left the board to obviously go talk to the tournament director about something. I saw the video. He didn't seem to have let his piece go or anything. It seemed like he moved his rook to d6, so I can't explain why he would have done this. We'll find out what has happened to make them stop right in the middle of this time pressure.
I think maybe there was a discussion about clock. Maybe they're talking about time delay or something. They tried to figure out whether there is a time delay or not, because it looks like there is no time delay, and Donald, who has only 3 minutes left, probably wants to have time delay.
Right.
And so maybe that's what it is about, because they were pointing to the clock.
Is the tournament? I didn't check. I thought it was a straight game 25. I didn't realize there was a time delay on the clock.
I think right now in all U.S. tournaments, time delay clock is preferable. And so I think the player who has black pieces, I mean any of the players actually, can demand clocks with time delay. And
wow. All right. Well, that might be it. And his time ticking down, he definitely would like to have that. That's a smart move on his part. But this is delaying the game right now as we are wondering exactly what's going on. And we see someone coming into camera right now as there must be a furious discussion going on off the stage. That's our technical director there checking things out. And we got to wonder what's up.
Do you guys have to note it? Do you guys have to notate another 5 minutes?
No, you don't have to notate.
It's definitely not an issue of notation, because under 5 minutes, he doesn't have to write any moves down. But wow, with seconds ticking away, it's been about 2 minutes so far that they've been away from the board. And I'm going to start my timer right now to see exactly how long it does take from this moment, at least, before they go back to playing. An unusual circumstance in a rapid game, Gregory, to have this many minutes ticking off the clock in the very first round of the tournament, as a matter of fact, to have this many minutes going by and players are not at the board, as some kind of controversy has already broken out in this game. I will point out that tactic you mentioned earlier, Gregory, that there was a threat here. If he had instead played another move like rook to e6, and now we see some hands coming back on the board. There's still some discussion. Rook d6 was the last move, and now the clocks look like they have started again. So it wasn't too long after I started the timer here, another 43 seconds before they started to play again. So the game has once again recommenced. I was going to point out, if rook e6, that bishop takes on e6 was a tactic, pawn takes, and then the move rook to c8 No worries about your own queen hanging because back rank is a problem. But instead, let's get back to the game. And we have seen now the move, instead of rook to e6, rook to d6. And insistent, he's played bishop to f1. And it looks like he's threatening the tactic one more time. It looks like in a very tricky way. And he has fallen for the tactic. He overlooked it immediately. Rook to d7 has been played, and that loses. That now loses, Gregory, to bishop takes on b5.
Maybe not. Maybe he has in between bishop b7 move, huh?
Ah, yes. That is not just maybe. That looks winning. Counter tactic. Back, you're right. I overlooked that, and that is, and especially if he's desperate, he's going to find that move. He's going to find it. So now, rook d7, a quickly played move, and Justin is definitely looking at bishop takes b5, but Justin is sharp, and he's looking up at his opponent and wondering, but if he plays bishop takes b5 right now, Justin will drop a piece. So this is a big moment. I don't think that Donald saw this going in, but he's now played the move, and you cannot play bishop takes b5 right now because of that in-between move, bishop to b7, winning material. So the drama continues. 5 minutes and 11 seconds for white, 2 minutes and 38 seconds for black. Time is ticking down, and white still has to figure out how he's going to win, and he did not fall for the trick. Very alert. He instead put his bishop on a new diagonal, bishop over to h3, but that doesn't seem like it's threatening too much. Donald should be able to defend that pretty readily.
Yeah, but with this time situation, basically white just needs to play maybe quiet moves, don't do anything special, and wait for black time to run out. Because so far, Donald didn't show that he can move quickly. So he takes time almost for every move, and his time is dwindling down, and
his last move is slightly suspicious. Certainly allows some kind of queen move, either queen to b6 or queen a5, pinning his piece. It looks like he can get out of this position, or maybe there's not even a threat. Maybe the queen is just here and not necessarily threatening anything, but a little bit awkward putting your rook on that c7 square. So right now, the idea of playing queen b6 is on the board, but as you mentioned, 207 for white, and it doesn't look like the delay was a factor either. It looks like that didn't change at all. So I don't know what the controversy was about, but now down to 4 minutes and 17 seconds, and queen b6, in fact, was played. Just a creep move, if you will. Not really threatening anything, but trying to squeeze black more and more, and look at black's time, under 2 minutes.
yeah, and he probably is gonna go down under 1 minute after his next move, because he is taking his time. No, bishop b7. He's gonna play bishop b7. He sees this move, and that's a good move.
And look at young Justin now playing quickly, instantly, keeping the pressure on and threatening bishop takes d5. Right now the threat is bishop takes d5, so it's a good time to move the rook away
Black is
and
gonna
play rook d7. Good move.
and that's what he did.
And
right?
it's exactly what he did. And now he gets it. He's got only 1 minute and 30 seconds left, 32 seconds. He's got to play quickly. Now the queen's going to have to move. I think queen a7 makes sense.
My prediction is he might trade queens, which I don't think will be a great move, but
I mean, a queen trade looks like such a bad idea. Yes.
Yes,
he played queen. But Gregory, I'm wondering, is queen a8 a bad move here for black? Given, oh yes it is. Oh no, it's not. No, queen a8 looks reasonable, but instead he's contorted his pieces even more and played the move bishop back to c8. Chasing the queen.
Right, which is okay, because any white move, he's going to go back to b7.
Yes, indeed. So that's working for now. Bishop back, and he's threatening the queen right now. Rook takes queens on tap, so this queen will have to move, and he's brought his queen back to a3, and now bishop back to b7 very quickly. He's starting to play a little bit quicker, and white is still searching for that knockout punch. I think that rook has stayed on c5 long enough, and it's time to come back home. Now he's played the move queen to c3, and I think g6 would be a nice move right now.
Or h6, right.
Or h, but make luft. Got to make luft. And instead he's played queen to b6, looking around at the possible tricks. It still works. There's no tactics with bishop takes d5, so he's okay with queen to b6. But he's got to make luft eventually. g6 got to be played. Gregory, this is an exciting game. I mean, black is not falling. This is what I had to deal with yesterday in the Simo. These kids are tough and holding serve, and imagine having to come around with them looking at all the threats. This is a serious move.
White probably should play e4 at some point, and maybe right now is not a bad moment. Because so far he didn't really create any serious problems for black. So he has to go for a pawn break. He has to open some files. Maybe it's not so simple, because after e4, black can trade on e4, and now he's going to have a target on d4, and black can play a move like queen d8.
And
but
e4 was in fact played, changing the position, and now 1 minute and 6 seconds left, and he's just got to take. He's just got to go for it, and he has taken, and the bishop has taken, and now the next step is what? But rook to d6, defending more, once more on that square, and there is no d5 move in this position that will do any damage. So the c6 pawn being held up once again as much as possible, but now black also has some counterplay on the d pawn. 2 minutes and 19 seconds for white, 1 minute and 2 seconds for black. They are fighting in this game. This feels like a last round game, and it's only the first round.
right, so
Now b4 has been played. But that allows queen d8. He did not see it. He played rook over to e6. Queen d8 looked like it was a strong move in that position, right?
very strong.
He
right.
did not notice the weakness, but it's high time. And now queen shifting to f3. And now queen, rook over to f6, just playing quickly. Queen now to g4. And when is this guy going to play g6? I mean, you've got to do something about your back rank, or there's going to be a trick there sooner or later. And now with only 54 precious seconds left on the clock and ticking down, and now still not dealing with the back rank, he's played the move queen to d8. And Gregory, d5 is possible. As a move, d5 is definitely possible in this position, but he is not playing it. He's moving his king up.
He's tempting him to take this pawn so that he can play bishop takes h7 check, which of course is kind of a cheap trick.
Very cheap trick. This pawn is not really unprotected because this queen is guarding it through the bishop. So you can't snack on it yet because of bishop h7. And finally, he's lifted with the move g6 and bishop back to f3. And these last two moves are defensive.
And after rook d6, black probably can win this pawn.
Instead, he's played this move. His time pressure is torturing him right now. He's played bishop back to c8, an unnecessary move, allowing queen over. Now queen has moved to h4, pinning the rook. And this is a problem. This is a problem. He's got to figure out what to do now. His d6 pawn is under fire and he's pinned. He's definitely created a problem for himself. Luckily, though, bishop takes c6 does not work because takes, and this takes, trying to exploit the pin, suddenly falls for a queen check, and he loses the rook. So for the moment, black is okay because of tactics. And now the queen has shifted over again. And I don't know why he's repeating moves. Just the time pressure is costing him, and he's now put his queen to e4. Gregory, 21 seconds left for black. He's not going to make it.
Yeah, he's kind of doomed because of his time situation. His position on the board is not as bad, but his time situation is very bad.
And white is exploiting that, just moving back and forth. Actually, Gregory, there is a delay on the clock, I just noticed. There is a delay. If you see the move, 5 seconds, there it is.
Yes,
so he can keep the time going. If he just keeps moving quickly, his time will not go down. He's keeping it at 18 seconds. So right now we have 1 minute and 15 seconds. White trying to figure out how to probe Black, and Black realizing with that 5 seconds, he can keep this game going. That delay is keeping the game exciting. 1 minute and 4 seconds left. Black defending tenaciously, trying not to blunder. Queen back to F4. Now Rook moving over to F6. Queen back to D2. And it is possible to play Rook D6 has been played. Rook D6 is on the board. And Rook takes C6, runs into Rook D4. This pawn is now unprotected. And 55 seconds left to 17 seconds. Time ticking down. An exciting round one happening right now. What is White going to do? His D-pawn is doomed.
Right. If White can play D5, but after Bishop E6, maybe this is still a problem. So I guess not. Queen can go away.
And then, White is okay for sure.
Oh, no. Yeah. And if C takes D5, Rook takes B5. So
sharp position. D5 is on the board, and we're waiting to see if Bishop to B7 has been played now, putting more pressure on that pawn. And now Queen to D4 in the position. Let's get that position on the board. Queen D4, and now Queen F6. What a surprising move. A mistake by Black. Black has made a big blunder, and he's lost a piece in the time pressure. He lost the whole piece, and now he's trading down, and now he's completely lost. He can resign. The time pressure doomed him in that position. Unfortunately for him, after this trade takes, and now they're just blitzing moves, we'll try to keep up, but if you look on the big board, White is ahead by a whole piece. You can see on the screen there, White is completely winning, and way too much time on the clock. Black is just making moves now out of inertia, and there's no way he's going to survive this position, as White definitely knows how to checkmate. Here comes the king. Without White's time moving at all, it's an easy victory for White, as Black is just trying to move on. He knows it's lost. Wow, after a terrific fight, he allowed this position to occur, and now White is just calculating the mate in two. The king has to move up, and there we go. Checkmate. A brilliant fight, indeed, by these two young players, but the blunder happened. Time pressure will get us all. Well, that was an exciting round one, Gregory.
Yeah. It was very exciting, very interesting game, and everything pretty much was decided in the last 30 seconds.
Unfortunately, well, we will bring you round two action here at the Queen City Classic, starting in a few minutes. Don't go away.
Program.